Hey, everybody. Happy Tuesday, June 27th, uh, 2023. You. Um, how's your summer going? It finally is warming up here in Middle Tennessee, and I kind of like it. I like heat and I like humidity. It's why I like hot yoga. I know it's kind of an acquired taste, but um, as always, please do let me know that you're here, and I would also love some confirmation that the picture is working and that the sound is working. I still sort of have PTSD from that time a month ago when nothing was working and I had to start over. So, any confirmation you can give is always greatly appreciated. So, um, here we are. We are heading into July fairly quickly, and things are slow, I think. I've gotten a few comments from my voiceover colleagues. Are you getting any auditions? Are there any auditions? Like, those kinds of things. It's a little slow. So my thought about that is that there's always other stuff to do. So we go about the business of doing other things. Like, oh, even relaxing. That's kind of nice. Taking a week off, enjoying the day. And if you can't do that, well, um, there's always marketing to do and sending emails and contacting your clients and all of those good things. Um, and One Voice in Dallas is coming up in August. I highly recommend. It's a smaller conference than, say, VO Atlanta, and in that regard, you just you get all the benefits of something that's a little bit more intimate. It's generally a few hundred people. It may begin to kind of pick up steam because when One Voice started, it was during COVID. So only those brave souls, willing to get on a plane during that period of time, attended, and so it was a few hundred people, which was actually quite nice. I went both of those years, and it was great. So let's see. Well, I am. I'm going to hope that all is well amongst you, and get this party started with today's topic, um, which is priming yourself for growth by getting real about what you don't know. This is one of my favorite topics, right? Because what's required for such a thing is a change of mindset about where we are, what we're doing, how long we've been doing it, what we think we should know. Um, and it kind of requires us to take a look at our our sense of pride, if you will. Um, I heard this fantastic quote the other day, which I'm sure you'll see coming up shortly on my social media channels. Um, and I don't know who said it. I would give them credit if I knew who said it. But the quote is, knowing is a barrier to learning. Knowing is a barrier to learning. And that kind of caused me to really contemplate um, the things I think I know, and the mindset that I bring to it. You know, generally speaking, in life, I tend to be very curious about things, and so I want to know. I am what my friends call me. I'm a rabbit holer. I just find my way through something, and I see something that I find interesting, and I go there. And invariably, I end up learning something new, right? So, but when it comes to my voiceover career, let's say, um, I have a lot of experience. That's fair. That's fair to say. Like I've been doing this for 38 years. So it's fair to say I have experience. Um, but voiceover was very different when I began, and it has changed along the way, and it is a very different animal now. And I would say that the most important thing I did about 12 years ago was to change my mindset. I was very, very frustrated because I was starting to not work. Things were starting to fall off. And that made me really anxious. And I knew I had gotten to this place where I either needed to look for another means of making a living, or I needed to invest myself differently in the career that I had established. And so I chose the latter. And what that required of me was to adopt a beginner's mind, even with all the experience that I had. I had to put that in perspective, because to take knowledge that you possess about another era of voiceover and think that it's going to apply to the future, that's where we fall down. And so I had to start thinking differently about what the business was and what was required of me. And while I had a home studio since 2006, so, not that long at that time, there were still a lot of things I didn't know about it. And so I certainly didn't know about particular genres of voiceover. Um, and I wanted to work in them. And so I began the quest, of finding out what those genres were like and what was required of me. And I had to set my ego aside. And I don't mean ego in the sense of, like, I'm not a bravado type of person. I just mean I had to step into circumstances where colleagues that I had worked with for 20 years would see me as a beginner. And that takes a measure of humility to step in to a class or a workshop or something and say, I've been doing this for 20, 25 years. And at this part of it, I am a beginner and I want to learn and I want to know. Um, so that's a piece of it, right? That I had to set aside my knowing so that my knowing wouldn't be a barrier to my learning. And um, and I think it applies whether you're beginning, right? I think people who are actually just beginning already kind of have, a beginner mindset, which is great. And yet, sometimes beginners think they know more than they do. And I've had this experience in some coaching where people who are truly beginners, but who have purchased a good mic and have listened to a lot of commercials, think that's all they need and that they know enough to compete, right? And that knowing prevents them from learning what they really need to know in order to compete, and that what they need to know will take a lot of time and effort to bring them up to speed, right? So it happens for all of us, whether we're beginning or whether we're advanced, whether we've done this years ago and we're stepping back into it. Um, So the humility factor plays in no matter where you are in on the voiceover path, right? Everybody's path is different, but we're all on it. My daughter is a fledgling animator. She wants to work in anime and she wants to, be an artist in that realm. And she uses a couple of apps and she draws. And the thing that she's particularly adept at is, coloring and shading and, of particular characters and all of that. And so she began taking some classes at the Concept Design Academy, which is in Pasadena, California. And over the course of 2 semesters, she realized how much she didn't know and how much better the students with whom she was in class, how much better they were than she was. And it was a real wake up call. My daughter has a tendency to think that if she's taken one class that she knows everything. And of course, knowing is a barrier to learning. And so I was really sort of heartened that she had this epiphany, and not only was it an epiphany of these other students are better at this than I am, but it was an epiphany of these students are more naturally talented than I am. And I think that that's true. And I think that that display of humility will take her far, because talent isn't the thing. It's working hard and being tenacious and keeping going when you realize you've met a hurdle. So she has no desire to quit or to step back. And she realized that there may be classes that she must take over and over and over again until she masters the thing that she needs to master. And so I, I just was really impressed with her. And I thought it was a really good example of being honest with yourself about where you stand, how much you need to know, and all of that. And also not letting your not knowing stop you. Your not knowing should actually be the thing that propels you forward. Um, One thing I wanted to say about this was that um, regardless of whether we're beginning, intermediate, or we have had a lot of experience in voiceover, but let's say we've stepped away for a while and we're coming back into it, and it's a brand new, uh, it's kind of a brand new business. Um, it can be really overwhelming because there are now, I think, in the voiceover business as it stands now, there are so many things that we have to undertake. It's no longer just auditioning, auditioning every day, going into your agent's office like it used to be a long time ago, right? It's not that anymore. It hasn't been that for a long time. But if that's all you know, stepping in, it's like, wow, I have to figure out where to get auditions if I'm not getting enough auditions from my agent. Right? I have to figure out where to get opportunity. I have to figure out marketing. I have to figure out how to find and keep clients. I have to figure out recording gear, and I have to figure out how to edit. And there are so many things. I have to figure out how to find comrades, compatriots in this business, because it's so isolating. And so, and I think we can get bogged down in the what do I do first, mindset. Like, uh, and and that truly can stop us in our tracks. And I want to say there is no prescribed linear 1 through 10 um, series of of actions that you take in proper order that will create the perfect circumstance. It doesn't exist. You know, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can, right? All those things. Um, and you can ask yourself the question, well, do I do a demo first? Because if I don't have a demo, how do I audition? Um, I need a website so that I can be seen. Um, what if I have demos, but they're kind of old, but I don't have the money to remake my demo? So do I put up old demos and they say, you know, a first impression is a lasting impression. Well, I don't want to put up demos that are subpar or outdated for fear of, that being the first and only impression that anyone is ever going to have of me, right? Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. I think we just have to pick a thing and start walking. And it is absolutely true that along the way, we may discover that we need a different thing in order to continue forward with the thing that we started with. And that is part of the deal. It's always 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. That is the nature of the beast. And I know it's expensive, right? Demos are expensive. Um, Nobody's demo is ever going to be perfect, right? You find a great demo, maybe you land an agent with it, and then your agent is going to say, we need you to change up your demo, right? And then we get all frustrated because, where are we going to get the money and how are we going to do that? And again, I think we move at the pace we're able to move. And if we don't have a lot of money right now, well, you save your money until you can do the thing that you need to do. There's no expiration date on your career. Things are going to come and things are going to go. Opportunities are going to show up and you're going to think it was the perfect opportunity for you, but you missed it because you didn't have this thing. Well, then guess what? It wasn't the perfect opportunity for you, right? Because luck, what do they say? Luck is the confluence of preparedness with opportunity. Well, if you're not prepared and the opportunity comes along, that's not yours. That doesn't belong to you, right? If you're prepared but you don't have the opportunity yet, well, obviously that's not going to happen. So we just keep taking a step forward. Pick a thing and do it. And along the way, don't beat yourself up if you can't complete the thing because you have to take a step back to do another thing, right? Nature of the beast. It's the nature of business. It's not just the nature of voiceover. It's the nature of being an entrepreneur and starting a business. There are costs. We have to invest. We have to learn. We have to take risks. We have to experiment. What makes us think that in voiceover we ought not have to incur those expenses and incur those trials and errors? We have to. We're business people. That's what we are. Whether I've got agents or whether I'm on pay to play, I'm still a business. And I have to do the things and make the expenditures necessary for my business to thrive. And it is slow going. There's no expiration date on your career. I sort of feel like that is what I have to say about this today. um, I think the way that we prepare ourselves for growth is a change in mindset and exhaling, right? And knowing that the place we're in, the things that are before us to learn, that's where we are. And to worry about them or to think that you're not going to get it right, you're not. How about we start there? You're not going to get it right. Not all of the time. It's trial and error. And so the shift of that mindset to forget what you know, to be curious about the things that you don't know, um, that primes you. It truly primes you for learning and for growth. Um, so I'm gonna I'm gonna leave it there. And if anybody has questions upon reviewing this video, please ask them, and I will be happy to answer, as I know all of you who have particular experience in this will also chime in. So I do hope to see you at One Voice Dallas. I'm doing my signature course, Do Less, Be Better, which is all about brand imaging, television, commercial auditions. And then I'm also doing like a 1 hour talk about what the snap is that talk about? I think it's about getting real. Kind of what this topic is. It's about getting real with your expectations, um, and abolishing some of the myths that we have about voiceover being, you know, a way to make some great cash on the side. And, you know, myths like that, and myths like if you've got yourself a good microphone, then you should start working. Stuff like that. Um, there are some really great people teaching. Uh, I can't recommend it more highly enough. I'm going to be putting out some social media posts about it, and so if you have more questions about it, you can find your way in there. I'll have a link in there. So that's it, my friends. I hope you have a fantastic remainder of your Tuesday and a great uh, rest of the week. And I'll see you in 2 weeks, which will be after the 4th of July. So happy Independence Day. All right, my friends. Take care. Ciao.